Good evening and welcome. You're watching Primetime News on TV1, bringing you the news. I'm Tharusha Kumar Singh, joining you after some time from the Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. Just before we start off, let's take a look at your headlines this evening.
Seven officers of the Attorney General's Department appointed President's Council. Protests erupt across the country against Sir John Kothalavala Defence University Bill. Health Minister says everyone is equal before the law. Agriculture Minister and State Minister carry out an unannounced inspection at fertilizer storage facilities.
Your top story this evening, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has appointed 7 officers attached to the Attorney General's Department as President's Counsel.
According to the President's Media Division, Milinda Gunatilaka, Haripriya Jayasundara, Vikum Diabru, Shanaka Vijayasinghe, Ravindra Patiranage, Nereen Pulle and Chethiya Gunasekara have been appointed as President's Counsel. The President's Media Division further noted these officers will take silk as President's Counsel in the near future, and that the Director General of Legal Affairs of the Presidential Secretariat, Harigupta Rohanadira, has handed over their appointments to the Supreme Court's Registrar.
The Marine Environment Protection Authority said it will allocate $2 million to compensate fishermen based on the compensation received over the Express Pearl maritime disaster. Officials had made remarks to this effect during a meeting with Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. Sri Lanka has sought $40 million as compensation for the disaster. Officials at the Marine Environment Protection Authority had informed the Prime Minister that $3.6 million had been received so far. Issuing a statement, the President's Media Division said that documents are being submitted to obtain the remaining compensation. The meeting had taken place during a progress review meeting of the Urban Development Ministry and its affiliated bodies. Officials have said that urban infrastructure facilities will be provided to 100 cities at the end of July to reduce the imbalance between main cities and regional cities. They added that the Urban Development Authority is constructing 60,000 houses for middle and low income earning families. 12,000 more houses are to be constructed under a private investment. Meanwhile, officials have also said that the 28 walking tracks will be constructed across 25 districts as well.
Ambassadors and High Commissioners representing 4 nations and the European Union called on the Minister of Finance, Basil Rajapaksa, today.
Ambassadors of the United States of America, Germany, China, Russia and the European Union met the Minister of Finance at the ministry premises today. Subsequently, the British High Commissioner and the Indian High Commissioner had also called on Minister Basil Rajapaksa. According to a media release issued by the Ministry of Finance, the minister had highlighted the importance of creating a green economy during the course of his bilateral discussions. The release issued by the ministry adds, the minister had sought assistance to promote renewable energy. The Indian High Commissioner has extended his willingness to further cohesion in terms of bilateral trade, while the Chinese ambassador has ensured its commitment towards providing stocks of vaccines continuously. The Chinese ambassador has also expressed his intention to direct prime investors towards the Hambantota industrial zone. The American ambassador, meanwhile, has assured she would assess the possibility of sourcing investors for LNG power projects.
The highly contended Kothalavala Defence University Bill has been taken up for debate in Parliament. However, a date has not been fixed to pass the draft in Parliament. Be that as it may, a number of opponents, including religious leaders, political parties, civil organizations, teacher and student unions, have band together urging the government to withdraw the bill. While a string of protests were held against the matter, organized by both civil and political entities, authorities took steps to arrest demonstrators and direct them for quarantine after courts had enlarged them on bail. By today, the situation has aggravated to an extent where movements opposing the suppression of dissent over the Kothalavala Defence University Bill have also emerged. One such protest was held in Colombo today. A joint protest in the form of a vehicle procession was held in Colombo this evening, organized by the collective of trade unions and polynomial organizations. The protest commenced from opposite the Nelumpokuna Theatre. The vehicle procession then proceeded to travel to the Gaul phase through Lipton Roundabout, Deans Road, Maradana Junction and Technical Junction. The protest ended opposite the Vihar Mahadevi Park. The protest was influenced by a number of factors, including ending moves to suppress social activists in the guise of directing them to quarantine through quarantine laws and urging the government to withdraw the Kotalavla Defence University Bill. According to our correspondent, only officers of the police motor traffic division had been assigned to ease traffic congestion throughout the duration of the protest. Several civil activists and other attendees expressed remarks following the conclusion of the protest.
We came here to make a statement. You cannot influence us. We are ready to fight against the Kotalavla bill, which destroys free education of the country and matters pertaining to Selandiva investments, where a portion of our land are sold off to foreigners. We are ready to fight those who cede control of the Trincomalee Harbour to the United States, Norachole power plant to China, Kerawalapitia to US and Hambantota to China.
The Director General of Health Services is issuing circulars and notices going against the quarantine ordinance. We would like to remind him such a law does not exist in this land. Do not engage in such disgraceful acts.
Minister in charge of police, you dressed Pyumi Hansamali in opulent clothes and gave Joseph Stalin a bedsheet. You fed him a loaf of bread. Shameful.
The government speaks of scoundrels. This government ascended to power through widespread opposition against the sale of the Hambantota port. Are they not the scoundrels when they come into power through that mandate and sells off the eastern and western terminals? Is it not a disgrace when a bill that was withdrawn during the good governance regime is reintroduced, a bill that destroys free education?
Meanwhile, a protest rally was staged in Beruwala opposing the Sir John Kotalavla Defence University Bill.
The government has brought forward various bills in a bid to destroy the system of free education in the country. By bringing forward the Kotalavla Defence University Bill, they are trying to deprive students of their right to free education. We will not allow that to happen.
The protesters proceeded to the Kalutara town and the Panadura town afterwards.
Some ministers in the government have contributed towards strengthening this. Kehelia Ramukwela called teachers as scoundrels, while Minister Amunugama said one teacher is sufficient to teach. We wish to tell the government to refrain from offending teachers in the country.
Some protesters staged a demonstration at a quarantine center run by the Air Force in Mullaitivu today. They were moved to the facility after being released on bail following their arrest during a protest.
We ask the government to release us, scrap off the Kotalavala bill. We wish to state that we are not afraid of the government regardless of any law that is brought forward. We will take steps to counter that. There must be laws relating to fundamental rights. They are expressing various remarks by disregarding that. Look at what has happened to the previous governments that disregarded human rights. All those governments were unseated.
Propaganda Secretary of the Frontline Socialist Party, Duminda Nagamuwa, who was arrested in a protest demanding solutions for the salary issue and the downsizing of the State Engineering Corporation, engaged in another protest at a quarantine center today.
If the KDU bill is passed in Parliament, it will mark the end of free education in Sri Lanka. We would like to ask as to who is responsible for bringing students to the streets. It is the government who should be held accountable. What is the government doing at the moment? The government is reproaching the people, saying that they are scoundrels. They said that the teachers are scoundrels as well. I say that it was the teachers who played a major part in getting this government into power. The people know who the real scoundrels are.
A media briefing was held at the Health Promotion Bureau on the prevention of COVID-19 earlier today. The Health Ministry's Deputy Director General of Health Services, Dr. Hemantha Herath, has gone into quarantine as he is considered to be a first contact of an infected employee at his workplace. But we know that he is secure since he is fully vaccinated. He will join us in media briefings if his PCR test returns negative results.
මතන්නේ අපිට ඒකට මට මේ වෙලාවේ ඔෆ් හෑන්ඩ් මතක නැහැ සර්කියුලර් එකේ හරියටම බලන්න වෙනවා ඒක.
මුළු ලෝකෙම පිළිගත් ආකාරයට
As accepted worldwide, we too have introduced health guidelines to be followed in our country. Health guidelines are not issued for Joseph Stalin, V.I. Lenin or Karl Marx. The police will be compelled to enact the law on anyone who breaches them, be it V.I. Lenin, Joseph Stalin, Karl Marx, Pumi Hansamali or Mohammed, who spat in the face of a PHI in Atalugama.
අර අටලුගමදී PHI මහත්තයාගේ මූණට කෙල ගහපු මොහොමඩ් උනත් මේ කාටත් එක හා සමානව නීතිය ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්න මේ රටේ පොලිසියට සිද්ධ වෙනවා.
උද්ඝෝෂණ නවත්තන්න පියවර.
Decisions made to stop protests are being carried out based on the recommendations of health authorities. They have clearly mentioned such gatherings and protests would lead to the spread of the virus. This is the relevant order. The police acted based on this order issued by the Director General of Health Services on the 6th of July.
වෙන දින මේ නියෝගය නිසා තමයි පොලිසිය කටයුතු කළේ.
Teachers are clearly entitled to express opinions on their rights. We also need to pay close attention to the education of children. I make a special request from teachers at this juncture, do not do such things to the children of the nation. If your grudge is with the government or the police, we will resolve it through dialogue. Unions comprising of teachers and principals along with civil and political activists expressed the following views today.
We wish to state that this is not politically motivated. These are the genuine concerns of teachers. We will not call off this struggle easily. Teachers will unite and win this struggle at the end.
මාර්ගගත අධ්‍යාපනය ක්‍රියාත්මක කරේ ආණ්ඩුව නෙමෙයි අපි විසින් සොච්චම් පඩියක් තියෙන ගුරුවරු බැංකුවට ණය වෙලා ෆෝන් එකක් අරගෙන.
While drawing low salaries, teachers obtain bank loans to purchase phones, tabs and computers. How did the Education Ministry treat us? The officials there received allowances, telephone allowances, transport allowances and even vaccines. They remain safe by adopting those measures, but now they are not executing their duties. Who will fall in trouble if the exam is held? It is the innocent children. There were ministers who said that they can't perform their duties without umbrellas. We did not ask for umbrellas or any other perks. We feel for the system of free education. That is why they took to the streets.
මොකද මේ ආණ්ඩුවට ඡන්දය දෙද්දී රටේ එක දිස්ත්‍රික් එක
The Sri Lanka Podu Jana Peramuna received about 60% of the votes from each district during the election, but they received about 80% through postal votes. Teachers who voted for this government to come into power are now being called scoundrels. We wish to ask Minister K.L. Ramukwella whether the scoundrels are teachers who spend out of their own pockets for internet service and purchase equipment using their salary. Otherwise, is it those who go on state-sponsored foreign trips, fall over from the balcony and then spend millions from the state coffers for their treatment who should be called as scoundrels?
සංචාරයකට ගිහිල්ලා ඉද්දි උඩ තට්ටු වලින් බිමට වැටලා අඬු කඩා ගත්තට පස්සේ රජයේ මුදල් වලින් රුපියල් මිලියන් ගණක් වෛද්‍ය ප්‍රතිකාර වලට වැය කරපු අයද කාලකන්.
A discussion between the leader of the opposition, Sajith Premadasa, and the Inter-University Students' Federation was held at the opposition leader's office today regarding the proposed Kotalavala Defence University Bill. During the discussion, opposition leader Sajith Premadasa had noted that safeguarding free education in the country is the sustainable policy of the Samgi Jana Balawegaya.
We defeated this bill when it came to the fore in 2018. I have to clarify one thing. Yes, we were in the ruling faction at that time, but the agenda we were working towards back then and the agenda of the Samagi Jana Balawegaya has a stark difference. We have to implement our policy to safeguard free education in Sri Lanka. Our ideology is to protect free education, reform the education system and modify the education system in Sri Lanka while not causing any harm to it.
A group including Ceylon Teachers Union President Priyantha Fernando filed 3 fundamental rights petitions with the Supreme Court today. They had argued that fundamental rights have been violated after the police had issued a statement declaring that all protests have been suspended. The Health Services Director General, Inspector General of Police, Health Minister and the Attorney General have been named as respondents to the petition. The petitioners have requested court to examine all statements and gazettes issued by the Health Services Director General and the Health Minister. They have argued that the directives have been issued to carry out suppression amidst the COVID-19 pandemic.
Venerable Thangalle Saradatera of the Samadhi Institute in Maligavatta filed a habeas corpus writ petition with the appeal court today. He had sought an order to produce Venerable Koswatte Mahanamatera in court and to release him from quarantine. Venerable Koswatte Mahanamatera had been moved to quarantine after being released on bail by court. The officers in charge of the Rajgiriya, Mirihana and Thalangama police stations, the medical officer of health in Battaramulla and the police chief are among the respondents.
We are crossing over to a short commercial break. You're watching Primetime News. We will
The magical sounds of Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra. This year's Summer Night Concert, 18th of July 2021, 5 p.m. onwards, exclusively on TV1.
Welcome back to the news. Now, the country's farmers are facing continued uncertainty in the face of the fertilizer shortage. Farmers continued their demands today for the agricultural authorities to take swift action to provide the required fertilizer.
This demonstration was held at a big onion farm in the Kodurua area of Diyabeduma in the Alahara agrarian colony. The protesters demanded that fertilizer be provided for their cultivation. These farmers say that their crops are being destroyed due to the shortage of fertilizer.
We were deceived into obtaining power. They said they would give fertilizer for free, but it is not available at all. Not even for purchase. Farmers are extremely helpless. Now is the time farmers need to fertilize these big onions. Farmers will not have hope if this harvest is lost.
මේක නැති වුණොත් නේ වගාවෙන් වැඩක් නැහැ. කාබන් එකක් නැහැ මොන පොහොරක් නැහැ. දැන් ඉතින් අත කන කර උකස් කරලා අපි මේව කරලා තියෙන්නේ අපිට ඉතින් කාට පිටක්ද කියලා හිතා ගන්නවත් බෑ දැන් අපි ආණ්ඩුවට කියන්නේ. ඕගොල්ලෝ මොන පොහොරක් හරි සුදුසු පොහොරක් මේ ගොවි ජනතාවට දෙන්න. සුදුසු පොහොර
This demonstration is organized by vegetable farmers in the Mahatanna area of Valimada. They pointed out that those who grow crops including potatoes, vegetables, leeks, beans, tomatoes and carrots are facing severe difficulties due to the lack of fertilizer. The farmers are gathering here today against this injustice. We have no fertilizer. Is it only fertilizers that are harmful to the people? This is a trap set for the farmers by this government.
Minister of Agriculture Mahindananda Aluthgamage and State Minister of Organic Fertilizer Shashindra Rajapaksa inspected fertilizer storage facilities at two privately owned companies today. The ministers demanded the companies to release these stocks of fertilizer stored at facilities located in Palyagoda and Kalaniya.
ඒ නිසා මේ ඩිලේ කරන ආයෙ යන්න බෑ. මේක කතා කරලා මොකක් හරි තීන්දුවක් ගන්න. එහෙම නැත්නම් නේද මතුමා? අපිට ප්‍රශ්නේ එනකොටම ඇහුවනේ නේද? මේ වෙලාවෙම විශේෂ අවසරයක් අරගෙන මූදේ කොහේ හරි ළඟ පාතක තියනවාද කියලා ඔක්කොගෙම කියන්නේ දවස් දෙක තුනකින් හැබැයි කරන්න ඕනේ. ඒක නිකන් මාස ගණන් ගියන් පස්සේ නිකන් මාස දෙකක් යනවා කොහෙන්ද? මාස දෙකක් යනවා කියලා. කොහෙවත් බඩු නැහැ කිව්වා. ඒ හොඳට දාලා දැම්මා. නෑ අපි අහුවා ඕගොල්ලන්ගෙන් පොහොර එන්න තියෙනවද? පොරක පොර නැහැ. දැන් ඇවිල්ලා මේ ඉවනම් අපි ඒ වෙලාවේ කමෙන්ට් එකක් අපිත් දෙනවනේ. මෙහෙම එකක් තියෙනවා මගේ එනවා එනවා දැන් අපිට කරන්න බෑ. දැන් කරන්න බෑ. දැන් අපි ඉන්නේ නෑ, ගේන්නේ නෑ, ඕනේ නෑ. මොකද කතා කරලා පොර නෑ කියලා කියලා වඩා දැන් පොර නෑ. නෑ කරනවා. ඒක ඇතුලේ වෙන බිස්නස් එකක් තියෙනවා.
Agriculture Minister Mahindananda Aluthgamage has responded to remarks made by the Janata Vimukta Peramuna that a private company had imported 10,000 metric tons of urea.
මේ වෙනකොට මාස දෙකක්
A vessel carrying 2,500 tons of fertilizer has been at the port for 2 months. We haven't released these stocks. There is no need to release stocks which were imported yesterday, when there are stocks which have been lying for 2 weeks. The decision on fertilizer imports was made on the 27th of April. We were of the firm stance that fertilizer imports won't be permitted. In the past, we felt that there was a fertilizer shortage of about 5%. We were then considering whether we can permit small quantity imports for which letters of credit had been opened. That is for the Yalla season. But those companies said there are no fertilizer imports for 3 months. Now a vessel has arrived suddenly. We won't permit this.
ඒ නිසා අපි මේකට කිසිම අනුමැතියක් දීලා නැහැ.
Leader of the United National Party Ranil Wickremesinghe issued a special statement today on Sri Lanka's economic crisis.
Our reserves amount to $4 billion. Once we settle the bond issues mid-year, we will be less by another billion. So we will be round about $3 billion. The unpaid dollar bills of the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation amounts to $1.3 billion. There are the foreign exchange crisis in the banks. There are no dollars, as you know. The banks are in debt to foreign banks. The amounts have not been disclosed by the central bank, but I am told that it comes to about $3 billion. Then the debts alone, these two debts alone come to $4.3 billion. We have in our reserves about $3 billion, of which another over $1 billion will be utilized to settle the service the bonds and to settle the bonds end of the year. We cannot bring in fertilizer. This whole organic fertilizer is just a cover for government's bankruptcy. There's a oil tanker import and we can't find the dollars to pay the oil tanker. We have limited money, that's why all the vaccines we have are limited to those over the age of 30. Others do not have any vaccines. So we are facing a serious situation. No one has given us money. The IMF has decided to issue $650 billion to be divided among the 190 member nations. Under that we will receive $800 million. But that is not enough. That cannot cover everything. Since there is no other alternative, we must go to the IMF, negotiate with the IMF that we have sufficient money for the next 2 years. Similarly, the IMF certificate will enable us to get more aid from India, China, Japan and the other countries. If we do not do this, there will be hunger and massive unemployment somewhere in the middle of next year. We have to prevent that.
The Attorney General informed the Supreme Court today that Harin Fernando, a Member of Parliament representing the Samagi Jana Balawega, will not be arrested until the 1st of September in connection with investigations launched into the April 21st attacks.
Deputy Solicitor General Dileepa Piris, who appeared for the Attorney General, made this announcement when the fundamental rights petition filed by Harin Fernando seeking an injunction restraining his arrest was called up today. The petition was called up before a bench of Supreme Court judges comprising Priyantha Jayawardena, Kumudini Wickramasinghe and Mahinda Samayawardena earlier today. The Deputy Solicitor General informed court that the CID would conduct further investigations after obtaining a statement from Harin Fernando. The petition is due to be taken up once again on the 1st of September this year.
On to a COVID-19 update for today. Sri Lanka reported 37 COVID-19 deaths today. The Department of Government Information said that these deaths had been confirmed by the Health Services chief yesterday. Meanwhile, the US has said it will send more than 1.5 million doses of Moderna vaccines to Sri Lanka. The Bloomberg media outlet reported that the jabs are being distributed under the COVAX facility intended to secure vaccines for the low and middle income nations. In more political news from here at home, these were the views expressed by MP S.M. Marikar during a media briefing of the Samagi Jana Balawega today.
The spread of COVID-19 had aggravated due to their mismanagement. How did they deal with it during the past 1.5 years? At least 20% of the population hasn't been vaccinated yet. If we have imported the jabs at the right time, the spread of the variant could have been controlled. They started suppressing struggles. Teachers then launched a strike action against that. It is the children who are affected by that. Therefore, it shows that the government is planning to hold a provincial council election next year. They want to vaccinate the entire population by October and claim victory just as they did during the war. They are trying to do this by stopping people from taking to the streets.
The COVID-19 pandemic, travel restrictions, the quarantine regulations and curfews, this has had an unbelievable impact on the people of Sri Lanka. This is their story.
There's a big story behind these flowers that you bloom by hand in front of the Temple of the Tooth in Kandy. The story is not as beautiful as the flowers that are sprinkled with fresh water on these steps. The COVID pandemic has turned that ugly story into a tragedy. If you go to the Temple of the Tooth, chances are that you will see Piyal Rajshri Vikrama. He has been selling flowers to devotees coming here for the last 33 years. The COVID pandemic has suddenly taken so much away from Piyal and countless others. I had a chain made for my daughter. There was another one I had made for my wife. We had to pawn both. We couldn't save one of those chains. We face many problems like this. There are 15 stalls in front of the Dalada Maligawa, but only 3 of those flower shops are currently open. Not only Piyal, but many of these sellers whose flowers decorated the altars at all the sacred places in this country suffered a common fate. Sarat Kumar, a father of 3 whom we met in Pusiankulam in Anuradhapura, grew flowers and supplied them to Piyal in Kandy as well as to various other parts of the country. With the success of the flower business he had started 3 years ago, he even convinced his son to return to Sri Lanka.
So we owe a lot of money and there's no way to pay it back. We pluck the flowers in the morning and bring them back in the evening as people do not come to the temple. We are in a lot of financial trouble.
These are just a few stories amongst countless lives rendered helpless by the COVID pandemic. Look forward to the story of more such lives hidden from the limelight once again tomorrow.
On to another tragic story this evening. The carcass of a female elephant believed to have died a few days ago has been discovered in the Minneria National Park.
Wildlife officers said the carcass of the female elephant had been spotted in the Mineri Reserve. This was during an operation carried out following an instruction issued by the head office. It is suspected that the female elephant had been killed 2 weeks ago. Was the calf abducted after killing the female elephant? Wildlife officers have conducted raids in the area recently upon receiving information that elephant calves are being abducted in the locality.
Sri Lanka has joined China in condemning the human rights situation in the United Kingdom. China expressed concerns to this effect during the 47th UN Human Rights Council sessions. With the views expressed by the Director General of Archaeology, I have been Tharusha Kumar Singh along with our sign language interpreter for tonight, Randy Cruz. Good night.
The epilogue.
අමහා රජවරු හිතනවා බලය කියලා කියන්නේ Tamanට ඕන දෙයක් කරන්න පුළුවන්කම කියලා. හැබැයි ඒක වැරදුනා කියලා ඒගොල්ලන්ට තේරෙන ටිකක් කලින්.
Some rulers think that power allows them to do whatever they want, but they begin to feel that they made the wrong moves only after some time. King Lajjatissa opposed temples at the beginning, but he realized his mistake later. It is said that he destroyed Chaityas and the Tuparamaya, but the people taught him a lesson. King Mahasen chased away monks from the Mahaviharaya and cultivated black gram. Some rulers believe that these structures don't have to be protected, but those who believe that were not able to sustain themselves for a long time. In a country in which history and tradition is respected and the blessings of the Mahasangha are sought, I don't believe that anyone can go against that. Therefore, rulers who understood that turned out to be successful.
එනිසා ඒ නිවැරදිව තේරුම් ගත්ත පාලකයෝ සාර්ථක පාලකයෝ බවට පත් වුණා.
The epilogue.